What's up, everybody? Trad West Podcast back at you with episode 9. All right, today, given it is deer season once again, gonna make this episode kind of about hunting, nature in general, because been seeing a lot of vegan stuff out there. Walking Phoenix new Joker movie just came out, and I see him on a PETA poster telling everyone to go vegan. And yeah, I was like, you know what? Let's talk a little bit about hunting because these animal rights activists and, PETA and just vegans in general who think you're evil if you eat meat, especially if you hunt because you're killing animals, that you're the devil. And they just have no clue. They're so disconnected from nature. So let's talk about that first. These people, these animal rights activists, they're so disconnected with nature and how things actually work. They think of nature as some Disney movie. All the animals, deer, bear, rabbits, wolves, lions, tigers, you name it, are all singing and dancing in perfect harmony together. Kumbaya. It's all love. No killing. That's what they're envisioning. They're probably writing their blog in their little 500 square foot studio apartment. The most they see is a bird when it comes to nature. They just have no clue what they're talking about. Nature is cruel, okay? It's not kumbaya. Let's explain how these animals actually die in nature. If hunters like myself, ethical hunters like myself, and while there are some bad actors, I will agree, the majority of hunters are good, decent, ethical people. So let's go over the reality of, let's say, a bear, a lion, a tiger, a mountain lion, a pack of wolves, a pack of coyotes. When they hunt down an innocent deer, squirrel, rabbit, you name it, they're ripping it to shreds while it's alive. Cutting the stomach open, tearing the guts out while the animal's alive, ripping limbs off the animals while they're alive. That is how cruel nature is. But I don't see PETA and all these vegans up in arms about that. So, way worse death if they're being eaten alive, like literally happens out in nature. Let's talk about other ways they die. Disease. Without hunting and controlling populations, disease can run rampant in these populations. And I'm just going to mainly use deer as example because that's what I mainly hunt and what I'm most knowledgeable on. But you got blue tongue, chronic wasting disease, not fun ways to die. And it doesn't just kill onesies, twosies. It can wipe out complete and total populations. So, hunting helps keep populations down, less likely to spread disease, and for that to run rampant. I was too young, but I remember hearing back in the day when I first started hunting, my dad would tell me stories of how he would be out hunting and you would just see tons of deer out if you're sitting out in the woods. Like 20, 30 herds of 20, 30 come through, another herd of 20, 30 come through. That was normal. And then I believe it was CWD or Blue Tongue, one of those, um, went rampant and just decimated the deer population out there. And then by the time I was starting to hunt, I mean, I usually saw stuff, but I would be happy if I saw 3 deer while I was out sitting. And I'll delve into this more. I didn't kill anything my first probably like 4 or 5, maybe 6 years of hunting because I was being picky, wanted a buck. Um, but yeah, you got disease. That's not a fun way for them to die either, and it wipes out way more if given the opportunity. And then lastly, I'll say starvation during the winter. If you have way too big of a population, winter comes in, less vegetation, food is more scarce. There's going to be a number of, particularly the younger and weaker of the populations, going to go hungry, going to starve, going to die. Also, not a very fun way to die. So that's 3 ways right there that are very cruel and that are just part of nature. When you have hunters using guns, bows, crossbows, maybe a little more likely to have a bad shot with a bow, but generally, if you're, you know, bow hunting, you're someone who takes it a little more serious and you target practice a bit more. Um, there's whack jobs out there. Again, ethical hunter, the majority of people I think are ethical hunters. But every deer I've shot, dropped them where they stood, or maybe 10 yards they run, drop, they're done. Very quick, humane death. So, animal activists, vegans, are you going to be upset over hunters giving it a quick, more humane death, or the ways it can get killed out in nature? If you don't keep populations at bay, there's also a lot more vehicle accidents. So, what happens when a vehicle hits a deer? Well, most likely the deer's still going to die. If not, it's going to be seriously wounded, broken leg, broken hip. It could survive, but its quality of life isn't going to be too great after. Or it just crawls, hobbles to a ditch, and again, excruciating, more painful, slower death is going to ensue. But most likely, cars hit the deer, it's a quick death as well, so the death itself isn't bad, but most likely the carcass is just going to sit there and go to waste. Maybe coyotes, maybe vultures get to it, so it actually gets consumed, but I've seen plenty carcasses on the side of the road that nothing ever eats, and it just goes to waste there. Then you got thousands of dollars worth of damage to your vehicle. Then you got possibly death or injury to the person driving the vehicle. So, allowing hunting in these overpopulated areas, in particular, cut down on the vehicle accidents, thus saving more human lives, more damage to vehicles, which I'm sure the activists won't really care about, but the deer are still dying when the vehicle's hitting them anyway. So why not have a hunter come in, humanely kill them, and then they're actually providing food for their friends, family, loved ones, or I'll delve into later, there are donation programs that a lot of hunters participate in. So the main thing I was trying to convey there is nature is cruel. The way these animals are dying in nature, far more gruesome and inhumane than what an ethical hunter is going to do. Side note, I'll say to the unethical hunters out there, because there are some, and they give people a bad rap. I'm sure there are some idiots out there that just enjoy killing animals for the fun of it, but that is not the majority. The majority we are killing. We buy permits. The permits help fund conservation programs where they research these diseases, where they pay people that work for these conservation departments. It helps fund all of this. So without hunters doing that, we wouldn't have the funding for the conservation of these animals. Now there are idiots out there. I was raised an ethical hunter. I don't take unnecessary shots. I use a scope on my rifle if it's during rifle season, and I've only sighted it in probably the initial time. I got this rifle for a gift at Christmas when I was like maybe 13ish. Sighted it in with my dad, and I've maybe practiced with it one other time, and I'm in my 30s now, and I'm still dead on every year that I shoot a deer. So there's really no excuse if you're using a gun to have a bad shot. And if you want I've had plenty of people I know trying to flex, "Oh, you use a scope, I use iron sights." Well, guess what? Those same people are shooting 5 rounds at a deer and either missing or just wounding it. So, don't be stupid. It's not a flex to use iron sights if you can't shoot with them. Buy a fucking scope. It's worth it. Or don't hunt where you're gonna be shooting far distances. I've always hunted in the woods, not a field, so I'm not gonna be taking a shot more than maybe 50 yards anyways. You should you should have a pretty good shot within 50 yards. And if you don't, hunting's probably not for you, or you need to get to the range and go practice. So, on top of just managing the populations, stopping the spread of disease, funding conservation, it also keeps ecosystems healthy because if you have overpopulation, let's just say deer overpopulation in an area, they're eating all of the vegetation. So other species are either dying or could lead to entire populations being extinct or wiped out if the animals go uncontrolled. So it's very important. And also, having it managed, it stops people from, back in the day when it was just a free for all. You didn't need permits. People were just killing, 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 hunting, hunting, hunting. That led to populations being wiped out. So now this is a more managed hunt style that we live in. It prevents people from completely decimating species, but the people hunting a certain amount each year also prevents the species from decimating certain vegetations, which will then lead to destroying an ecosystem, and other animals could then suffer from overpopulation of certain ones, particularly because we don't have certain predators um, as prevalent in the states now, mainly like wolves and such, that would have generally been hunting deer populations and keeping them at bay. But, I don't think people want a bunch of wolves wildly roaming. I wouldn't mind, it'd be pretty cool. But coyotes are the closest thing we have to them around here. So, vegans, PETA, think about this before you want to go off on hunters next time. I don't know why they always seem to be having a problem with hunters. Like, I totally get it if they want to like talk against factory farming, stuff like that. These animals aren't raised in humane conditions mostly. They like chickens, for example. They live in a tiny little cage where they can't even move. 6 weeks or so, they're sent off to the butcher shop. They're probably just tossed around in cages where their legs break and that. I get it. I get it, having a problem with that. But don't come attack people who farm, do it the natural way, um, treat their animals well before taking them to the butcher or butchering them up, or hunters who are most likely ethical and giving that animal a quick, clean death. And in turn, it really teaches you how we were meant to live and the nature cycle. When you I've seen vegans actually. There were some vegans that I followed on Instagram, and they always like bragged about being vegan. And then all of a sudden, I see eating meat, and they became hunters. This is why they had a change of heart. Once they actually got out there and experienced hunting for themselves and got to see what it all entailed, and they see going out there yourself, killing the animal, field dressing the animal, processing it, or taking it somewhere to be processed, but then you have directly from source, nature, directly to table, now nourishing you, your family, your loved ones. That's really cool to see, and that changes a lot of people's minds who may have had a negative outlook on hunting, because they just don't think of it that way, you know? You're a hipster, you live in New York City or any big city, you live in your little studio apartment, you know, you go to the grocery store and you get food. You don't even really think where it comes from. But some people are so disconnected with nature that I think they really need to get out there, get in nature. And even if you don't want to hunt and kill things, uh, just sit out there for several hours and take it all in. You might actually get to see some of the cruel parts of nature. I've seen hawks swoop in at squirrels. I've seen coyotes chasing things. And depending on where you live, you know, you might see a bear or a mountain lion or something. Probably a little more rare, but real cool to see. And deer season. It's not like I'm somebody who just shoots the first thing I see. I'm very picky. I've let so many deer live that I've seen, especially the first few years of my hunting career, if you will. Um, they're just cool to watch, especially during the rut. So, if you're unfamiliar, the rut is their deer's mating season, and it's fun to watch. The bucks will be just chasing does all over, and I'll just sometimes be sitting there video recording them out of my deer stand because it's just fun to watch. And I'll say the one last year, first time I ever saw it, I did end up shooting this deer the next day, but I was on the fence on it. The night before, though, he came by, and I had seen him a couple times on my cameras. He's decent. Had kind of a unique rack, so that's why I was like, should I? But the night before, I was hunting one of my other stands, and he was real slow stalking a doe, letting this really slow, drawn out grunt that I'd never heard before, and like just creeping on her. And it was the coolest thing ever. Like, I was like, okay, that's awesome. I just watched. He went on chasing her down the way. So next day, I'm hunting another stand. He comes by again. It's cold, it's windy. I've kind of had enough. I didn't kill anything the year before. I really wanted the freezer fool this year, or yeah, this last year, but really wanted the freezer fool. So I was just like, had him in my scope. I passed on him last night. And then I just finally decided, okay, whatever, I'll take him. Um, so at least he probably had his fun the night before. So his genetics should live on, and he got to have a little fun before he left this earth. But again, perfect shot, dropped him where he stood, painless death, quick, clean, much more humane than him being ripped apart, starving, dying with blue tongue or chronic wasting disease. So, some other good things about hunting that we'll go into because I just kind of went off on a tangent there. Um, Talked about hunting licenses. It helps fund the research. You know, economy boost. If you care about anything like that, you know, hunting's a whole industry. You're buying camouflage. You're buying deer stands. You're buying scent. You're buying, you know, guns, ammo. You name it. That's boosting the economy. That's helping out. That's helping neighborhoods. That's helping, you know, cities, states. And like I said, well, okay. Wellness. Depending on where you're hunting, especially if you're out somewhere where you're going up mountains, I would really like to elk hunt one day, and I've heard that's a really good workout. You got to be in shape, but just getting out in nature, as I said before, it's cool, it's peaceful. I was raised real ethical, old school, so I'm no stranger to just sitting out in my tree stand for 10, 8, 10, 12 hours a day. Sometimes I'll get down, go back for an hour or two, take a nap or watch a little football, eat lunch. But there's been days where I'm literally out there from before the sun comes up till sun is setting. And it's peaceful. It's some of the most peaceful. If you're into meditation, if you're into praying, it's great out there. So, I mean, even if you're not going to go out, I know people who go out hunting, they'll bring a gun and that, but they don't have an intention really to kill anything. They just like to watch. And many times I'm just sending videos of animals to friends. Um, so it's really cool for that. Fresh air, relaxing, like I said, vitamin D, the sun, cardio, depending on how far you're walking and whatnot. So it's good for health. Um, like I said, it gives you a respect for the wildlife as well. It's not like I'm not going out there like, ooh, I hate deer, die, die, die. No, it's you kill it, you have a newfound respect. This is helping feed you, your loved ones, friends, family. So you have an appreciation for this animal. It actually teaches you more about the nature and the animal cycle. Um, Wild game is some of the healthiest food you can eat on this earth. If you're buying store bought food, meat, probably pumped with hormones. Who knows? Wild game, awesome. Super healthy, super nutritious. So that's a plus as well. Again, really want to elk hunt. Elk looks freaking delicious. I know Joe Rogan always has elk and he's posting pictures of his elk steaks and it looks awesome. But venison's not bad. You do a chili. You can mix, the ground venison with ground beef. Usually turns out pretty good. But of course, the steaks and snack sticks, jerky. You can do real cool stuff like that. It's awesome. Um, let's see. What else do we got? Calming and peaceful. Talked about that. These conservation agencies, um, without hunting, they wouldn't have funding. Like a majority of the funding actually doesn't come from tax dollars. It comes from hunters buying like permits and shit. So, oh, really cool as well. This is what I'm going to talk about. So, I don't know if they do this everywhere, but I would imagine they do. But really cool program they have around here. It's called Share the Harvest. So, you can donate you take your deer to get processed somewhere. You can say, "Hey, I want to do the Share the Harvest program," where you'll then donate part of your either for like a discount or something like that. Um, you will then donate part of your the deer you killed, some of your meat, to homeless shelters. Feed the homeless. So that is a really cool thing. I know many people like I usually if I kill one, I'll only kill one. Um, and I'm really picky. Um, just the way I hunt. Um, but I know guys who just like getting out there, like hunting. Um, they'll kill a couple and they might keep like one, maybe two. They know the amount that's going to feed them and their family till next year. And then they might kill one or two more deer and they'll just donate those entire deer to the Share the Harvest program, which is awesome. Um, so especially if you're hunting on like public land or something, you probably don't really care about the populations in the area, but I'm trying to keep I'm a buck hunter mainly, still eating it, of course, not just trophy hunting, but I like to get my bang for my buck. Zing. Um, if I'm killing a buck, I'm getting a trophy and food out of it. So I've only ever killed bucks, honestly. Um, I've killed enough now in my time that this year, if I don't see anything bigger than I currently have, I'll probably take a doe, or I'll see if my fiance wants to get her first one, and maybe I'll just let her kill whatever she wants, because she's never killed one. A couple years ago, I let her field dress mine, gut mine, and I just kind of coached her through, showed her what to do. Um, and she thought it was awesome, wasn't grossed out by that. So maybe if I don't see a monster, I just tell her, hey, if you want your first deer, we'll let you um do it. She has taken one out with her car. So last year, no, the year before, when I didn't kill one, she killed one with her car. So technically, she killed more than me one year. But um, I also we talked about vehicles keep populations down for less wrecks. I totaled one of my vehicles several months ago, swerving to miss a deer, and then put it in a ditch. So it was an older '96 Camry, but I was gonna drive that until it wouldn't drive anymore, and it is toast now. So and only liability, so just had to eat it. So that's some really cool stuff that hunters contribute, and I just want to put this out there. Share this with your vegan friends or your animal activist friends, because people just don't understand it. Hunters are just vilified as some evil people who want to kill animals for fun, and that's just not really what it's about. And as long as you're doing it ethically, um, it's very beneficial. And hey, as my conspiracy theorist, put my tinfoil back on for this comment, it teaches you good skills to know, okay? We just saw again with the dock worker strike that was going on. All these idiots were buying out everything at the grocery store, toilet paper, bread, milk, you name it. These people panic. And should you be somewhere where you're relying on grocery stores and they're all wiped out, what are you going to do for food? So, learning a skill like hunting, fishing, um, growing vegetables, but hunting, fishing, you can kind of do whenever if you were in a bind. There's only seasons for hunting, but let's say power grid goes down or supply chain goes down. If I need food to survive, I'm going to go shoot something. So it's a good skill to know. You might not need it. Let's hope and pray society, this fragile society, stays the way it is, where we can just so easily walk to the grocery store and get food. But the reality is, without the supply chain, that grocery store doesn't have food stocked in it. So people just need to understand where food actually comes from, learn that, hey, maybe society stays running perfectly and you never have to use these skills, but they're good to have. It's not going to hurt you to know how to kill a deer, to field dress a deer, to process a deer. It's not going to hurt you to know how to gut a fish, to fillet a fish. It's not going to hurt you. It's only going to help. I've slowly been trying to make this property as self sufficient as possible. Still got a ways to go. But yeah, slowly just starting to try to not depend on the grocery stores. And that is something hunting can seriously do, depending on how big your family is. One, maybe two deer can probably last you until next season. So I know this past time I didn't get any ground. We had plenty ground beef from we've been buying like half cows from the local farmers as well. So our freezer was full. So I just got all like snack sticks and summer sausage out of my deer last year, and yeah, I went through the summer sausage relatively quick, but I still got quite a bit of snack sticks, and it's now bow season here. So and then next month rifle season kicks off. So I try to get out during bow because I got cameras around the property in the past couple years. The biggest ones have been on my property during the early part of this bow season, and then like actually around this time they're usually gone. But hopefully it brings them in. I don't do too much with food wise for them because I'm around all farmland. Neighbors do corn, neighbors do beans. There's plenty of food sources nearby, but maybe food plots in the future. The way my property's set up is just kind of be weird compared to where I hunt on the property. But I'll probably close with just speaking to some of the actual hunters. Let's be ethical. Let's not be yahoos out there. Let's make sure we see what we're shooting. If you're on public land, especially, make sure you're wearing your orange. Okay, that reminds me. I stopped hunting public land because these idiots are just so annoying. Piss me off. My parents are at one of the lakes around here that have a bunch of public land around it that you can hunt on. But it's actually kind of a secluded area. But some of the locals, I was seeing the same people every year. I had a stand up. I'm hunting from a stand. This guy and his kid never sit still. They're walking around the entire time and they don't see me. And they're walking toward me. This was the first year I'm in my stand. Walking toward me, walking toward me. I start waving my orange because I'm like real old school, sit in my stand completely quiet all day. So I'm just waving my orange, pissed off that these dudes are walking through. These idiots don't see me till they're like 20 yards away. And then they're like, oh, and they go walking. Next year, same motherfuckers walking through. I'm like, you know my stand is back here. Why are you walking around the whole time? Sit your ass down and maybe you'll kill something. So, man, that and then my final year hunting there, um, I watched like 4 does walk past my stand, let them go. All of a sudden, I hear a couple shots go off. So somebody was hunting pretty close to me that I couldn't see because the trees were pretty thick over there. All 4 of the does come running back through past my stand. They didn't hit any of them. And then it's close to dark. I'm watching these idiots walk around with flashlights looking for the deer, thinking they hit it. And I just got down from my stand, didn't even tell them that they didn't hit any of them, that they just ran all past me. Because I was like, yeah, you fucking morons can just search out here all night. Like, idiots. Idiots on public land, so I feel for those that have to hunt on it. Luckily, I got a house on 32 acres now, so I can walk 5 minutes to my stand from my house and hunt on my own property. Game changer. Killed the biggest buck I've ever killed on this property, and it was actually my first ever archery deer as well. So that was awesome. And yeah, I'll just call all the hunters, be ethical, know what you're shooting, don't take unnecessary shots. Um, Giving us a bad rap when you're out here wounding animals, shooting dangerous shots that there could be houses or people or cars behind. Know what you're shooting. Get a scope if you suck with iron sights. Practice every year if you're bad and you need to, target practice. You shouldn't when you're shooting these guns, all right? I have 270 Remington with a scope. Got it when I was 13. Very rarely shoot it. Other than hunting, I've shot it maybe 3 other times in my life from 20 years that I've owned it now. And I'm dead on every time I shoot a deer with it. So there's no excuse when you're hunting with a rifle, fellas. A little more lenient if you're using a bow, I get it. But generally, the people that are using bows, a little more serious hunters, put a little more work into it. So, with that, I'll end this episode. Make sure you like, follow Trad West Podcast on all platforms. I've been on X a lot. I know I was behind on some videos, but if you don't follow me on X, make sure you follow me on X because I post quite a bit on X actually, trying to get that follower count up. And it's just a better way to get news these days than the legacy media. So, until next time, peace out, everybody.